This is hard. Good morning. Here we are in Central Oregon. The sun's starting to come out. It's warming up. We had ice in the guides here earlier today. Why am I casting two different fly rods? Well, this little bit of information is going to be talking about one of the fundamentals in casting, and that is the stroke length. So the way the fundamental works is if this represents the stop on the forward cast and this represents the stop on the back cast, the stroke length changes with the length of the line. More accurately, the stroke length changes with the bend in the rod. So if you had a really stiff rod and a really soft rod, to get a good loop, and this all talks about getting a nice loop, the tip of the rod and all that other mumbo jumbo, but the idea is that a stiffer rod, you'd want to make a shorter stroke than a softer rod. But even if you had two identical rods, and one was carbon fiber and one was fiberglass, the fiberglass rod, because of the nature of the material, is going to recover differently, but also it weighs a little more. So it's going to bend under by itself. So fiberglass rods force us to use a longer stroke. And if you, like me, grew up only casting fiberglass, because carbon fiber was not invented back in the early days, we already learned to make a little bit longer stroke. So if you grab a person starting with glass and they grew up making a longer, smooth casting stroke, longer stroke, and you give them graphite or lighter weight carbon fiber, when the rod doesn't bend so much, the tip of the rod ends up like curving like you're painting an igloo. And again, this is casting 101. So if your rod tip travels with like you're painting an igloo because it's really stiff, well, you're going to end up with wide loops. Conversely, if I gave this glass rod to a person used to short strokes, aggressive strokes, and they try and make a really short jabby stroke, whew, that rod tip dipped below and it gives me a below straight, and it gives me a big tailing loop. So this is all about lengthening your stroke. So the next time you grab your glass rod, I want you to just experiment making a stroke a little bit longer, making one a little bit shorter, and look at the results. That was terrible. One little check mark on this idea of lengthening your stroke is when you do lengthen the stroke, and I'm talking about not just the angle, not just how far back the rod goes, but my hand travels. We call that translation. So with fiberglass, I open up the casting stroke, I go back a little farther on the front and the back, and my hand slides straight back and straight forward. If I'm casting down, it'll slide straight down, straight up. If I'm casting parallel to the water, if I got a tailwind, my hand might even go down behind me and up in the front, and you'll look like Echo Man. But the idea is when your hand moves back and forth, make sure it tracks absolutely straight. If your hand's traveling in a curve to make this longer stroke, it's going to give you a big wide loop. So lengthen your stroke when you're throwing a glass rod, and make sure your hand's moving in a straight line. Hope this helps a little bit. Have some fun out there and stay safe. Thanks so much.